So, offering today some thoughts on the topic of the divine feminine and to a lesser extent the idea of the sacred masculine. These are terms that are very widely used. And I looked into this when I put together a course on Udemy about a year or two ago. It was really quite an extensive study I did around Mary Magdalene and whether or not one of the many questions about her was whether she was a model or could be a model of the divine feminine. I'm not going to try and answer that question here, but just picking up on some of the threads of what came out in that particular study. We should say, first of all, I believe that the divine feminine and sacred masculine are not labels for female and male, gender, or biology. It's often assumed, of course, that those born into a woman's body must commonly express what's feminine, while those who are born into a male body tend to express masculine traits. I'm going to put a separate post together on this because I think this is something that can take us down a bit of a confusing road as well, and it raises the question of whether, if you're born into a male body, for example, you should exclusively, let's say, invoke masculine, sacred masculine characteristics. I very strongly believe that isn't the case, but I'll put together a separate video on that. Right, hot on the heels, probably directly after I've done this one, just to try and keep it a bit simple. So it may be that this assumption is there, that those born into biological bodies express particular traits because we have human beings have awareness and are most driven to define our identities according, of course, to social norms from a very young age. What is or what isn't innate remains, of course, one of these questions to be answered, a perennial question, if you like. There may also be archetypes, these kind of imprints, the sets of memories, the sets of wisdom that are supposedly, psychologists say, are in the collective conscience, templates, if you like, of ways to be, models of wisdom, or models of character that we can draw upon. There may well be some archetypes that are specifically relevant to the sexes and the unique experiences they may face in their life, either because of social roles, but particularly because of the biological roles that mothers and fathers play specifically. However, we should be clear here, I think, that we each, I believe all of us, can access and express both masculine and feminine qualities. Yet we seem perhaps instinctively to understand that they are complementary, masculine and feminine principles at work, both within the world or the universe indeed, and within ourselves and within our own relationships. And defining what is feminine and masculine is difficult. That's one of the reasons I put together a playlist on this whole subject. It's something that's intrigued me for many years, and the idea of the playlist is to look at different aspects of it. Generally, it may be thought perhaps that there are polarities. What is opposite to matches or balances the other in order to achieve some sort of wholeness. What exactly it is that's in polarity, of course, is difficult to identify. For me, we're talking primarily about energies, something that has a feeling to it, that has a certain nature, a tendency perhaps to move in a particular way, or if you like, if you have a spiritual, a faith, a religious belief, as I do, a disposition of soul, if you like, being a possible explainer for what is masculine, what is feminine. Some simply say that we instinctively know what is masculine or feminine, but how might I be sure that I have the same sense as you do? I can't. Distinctions between what is considered feminine or masculine, therefore, usually reduced to categorization by labels. For example, we might talk of the masculine as being active, aggressive, assertive, goal-focused, outward-reaching, containing, the idea of providing a container. Whereas feminine traits are often reduced to things like passive, compassionate, flowing, creative, evolving, receiving. Now, I think these are far from satisfactory distinctions in my view. They are labels. But again, remembering that we are not talking about what distinguishes women and men, but those seem to be the labels that we have. It's certainly clear that what is feminine, as we describe it in these terms, isn't about what is pink and fluffy, passive and maternal. Neither does it reduce down to the three core archetypes often spoken about for the feminine, the maiden, the mother, and the crone, which are recognized in many traditions as perhaps the three major stages of life, although there will be a further breakdown beyond that. Nor, for that matter, do I believe it can be reduced to archetypes that are commonly attributed as being feminine, such as perhaps seductress, damsel, the femme fatale, among many others. They may well be archetypes that have their role in, I don't know, personal development or spiritual development activities and psychotherapy, but they don't perhaps speak about the attributes of divinity that perhaps one who invokes the divine feminine personifies, which is our main focus, which is my main focus here. I'm actually going to go into another video now because I think I can separate out what I've just said as being perhaps an introduction to some ideas on what masculine and feminine energies are about, rather than specifically talking about what is divine. So hot on the heels of this one, I will be recording another video. If you want to go on to that, I'll put the link in the description.